It runs pretty well, and it is definitely playable. For sure, definitely playable. Oh no, I only have one screen! In general, DS games on the Miyoo Mini are pretty respectable, but there are some notable limitations. So here I have a true DSi XL, which is, in my perspective, the best way to play DS games, including Pokemon ones. It just feels so good to hold. So as you can see, comparing to the DSi XL, the screen of the Miyoo Mini is considerably smaller. It's noticeably smaller. And also, of course, it only has one screen. So how do people deal with that when playing Pokemon games on the Miyoo Mini? How do you use this guy as a DS Pokémon machine? First of all, the screen of the Miyoo Mini Plus is gorgeous. The colors are in point and the sharpness is perfect for this kind of game. Actually, the screen is better than the DSi XL one, in part because of the higher resolution. Well, the emulator that's running all of these games is not native of neither the native OS of Miyoo Mini nor the Onion OS system. So you gotta install it by yourself. It's not hard, you just gotta drag some folders here and there and just like open up your Miyoo Mini and here you go, it's gonna be right here. And then you just create a folder called NDS and drag your ROMs there. Of course, you need to have the physical games in order to play the ROMs. So do what's right and buy the games. Of course, that the single screen is kind of an issue here. And I am really glad that Drastic, which is the application I'm using to run these DS games, allow you to put both screens in only one. So all you gotta do is come right here, pressing select and start, and you're gonna be taken to their menu, which is really minimalistic. And now for the first display, you set a single screen, which is gonna be this red one, and for the alternate display, which can be accessed by pressing select and A down here, you're gonna put this one here. This is the best duo. So in practice, you have a single screen and pressing the R2 button, you're gonna switch them just like this. And pressing select and A, you're gonna activate the dual screen mode, which gonna create the second screen in a certain opacity, which you can also change so you can see both screens at once. As you can see in my camera right now, the resolution is quite solid. You can definitely read what's written here, but you can still change them to make it bigger if you wish so. The touch screen, we're gonna talk about that later, but spoiler, it's not good. Pressing select and A, you can just see a single screen if you wish so. Well, this video is about Pokemon games on the Miyoo Mini, since they don't need a quick reaction or necessarily a good hardware flow in order for you to enjoy them. They're like a gourmet Tamagotchi. Even though this video is made for DS Pokemon games on the Miyoo Mini, here goes my quick reaction of the most popular DS games on this little bad boy here. Mario Kart is playable. It doesn't feel like 60 FPS, mainly because it's not. So prepare yourself to enjoy a good 30 FPS experience, which is more like a 40 to 60 FPS with constant drops. Also, you gotta press the shoulder buttons with a bit of strength. I know, my muscular memory tells me to be sensible with the shoulder buttons because of the DS experience I have, but you do need to use just a little bit of strength on the shoulder buttons if you don't want them to release themselves during gameplay. New Super Mario Bros. Is kind of the same thing. I think it's playable, but you're not gonna have a constant 60 FPS as in the native hardware. Super Mario 64 runs great. It's not part of my childhood, so I'm not sure if the flow is good enough to play, but check out the footage and tell me, you guys, if this is good enough to play. Quick disclaimer is forget touchscreen games. They are not playable. Drastic does have a touchscreen function, but it's only made so you can get through the touchscreen mandatory sections. Alright, this video is about the Miyoo Mini as a Pokemon machine, so let's talk about Pokemon. Believe it or not, my biggest and hugest complaint is not the single screen, but the lack of an RTC, which is a real-time clock. So right now it's 12 p.m. and the game does not know that it is 12 p.m. So it's gonna be a constant experience for you to log in, to open the game, and it's gonna be nighttime, even though in real life it is not. The RTC itself is kind of a cheap hardware, and it is a huge bummer that Miyoo did not include it in the Miyoo Mini Plus. But there is a clock app in which you can manually set the time before opening the game. So it works, but it's not as intuitive as the DS experience because of the lack of an RTC hardware. So in the configuration I set for the screens in Pokemon, which I showed you, this is kind of a real solid option. So if you're gonna use it as a DS Pokemon machine, I recommend you to set your Miu Mini just like this. For Pokemon games, music is not a problem. In more hardware intensive games, you're gonna have some music stutters here and there, but in Pokemon ones, not really. Even during walking, which is the more hardware intensive section for the Miu Mini, you're not gonna have problems with music in general. You know, because of the application, maybe a stutter here and there, but it's an overall good experience. Performance is good, but there are constant frame skips and little stutters that don't affect your Pokemon gameplay, but do affect a bit the aesthetics of what you're seeing. Fast forward during walking is kind of weak. I'm gonna activate the show speed option so you can see for yourselves. Right now it's 100% speed, so it's the regular one, and activating the fast forward, the max speed it reaches, it's not even 2 times. But the good part is that during battle and during, you know, those kind of more 2D scenes, it rises up not really that much. Oh, that's surprising. Maybe that happens because it's Pokemon Black and it has animated sprites, but in my Pokemon Heart Gold footage, which is where I played the game the most, it does rise up considerably. So it's gonna be easier to grind in Pokemon Heart Gold than in Pokemon Black, sadly, because I really like Pokemon Black. So try not to rely too much on fast forward because it's not really that strong. It's gonna come in handy, but it makes things lag even more. But again, it's useful. Well, the Miyoo Mini Plus have a good stock in stores like the official AliExpress store. And if you want to play Pokemon games, I recommend you considering grabbing one, even though there are more powerful yet more expensive devices. The lack of a real-time clock sucks, but you can still set a clock manually. The lack of 2 screens is a bummer, but the way Drastic allows you to set opacity and switch the screens kind of make things look solid to play Pokemon, even though it requires a bit of getting used to in terms of shortcuts, you know, to change screens, etc. I'm having a blast playing those and I recommend it. Subscribe.